Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And in this video, I am continuing my series on counting down my 100 favorite albums. This time I'm at number 28 on my list, which is Plus by Ed Sheeran. So stay tuned to see my thoughts here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well here on a Wednesday afternoon. And I'm going back to my series of trying to go through all my 100 favorite albums, going through each one single each time. Anyway, so I'm at number 28 on my list. And this is Ed Sheeran's debut album, which is a plus sign. I guess I just call it plus. All of his albums have a sign like that. Plus, divide, times, equals. It was his last one. And I'm excited to see that he's going to have a fifth album come out called Subtract, which is coming out in May. So I'm really interested to see what goes on there. So far, I've been really enjoying all of his albums. I have the equals on vinyl, and it's probably his least critically successful album, but still I really enjoy equals. I already talked about Divide, was just a few spots, I think, before this one. In fact, and fairly high on my list. Really good album. But this is my favorite Ed Sheeran album at the moment, though Divide is pretty close. Plus and Divide are both really great albums, I think. And has a lot of great hits on there. But I just have this a little bit higher. This came out in 2011. It was Ed Sheeran's breakthrough album. This is his debut album, but it's really put his name out there and really did very well. Now, just talk about Ed Sheeran. For me, around this time, right before this album came out, I want to say maybe a year before this album came out, I don't know, or 6 months before this album came out. I remember I was watching late night television. I usually used to watch, like Tonight Show with Jay Leno and Late Show with Conan O'Brien, and then later, Jimmy Fallon. And I was watching one of those shows at this time. I can't remember which one now at the top of my mind. But and usually they have a musical guest sing a song at the end. And usually, sometimes they have a big one that's debuting a new album. And sometimes they have kind of a little known musical guest that I've never heard of, that maybe is big in LA or New York, that they put on there and trying to get some traction, I guess, globally or, in the United States. I was watching one and they're like, oh, here's an artist named Ed Sheeran who's debuting a new single. And it was A-Team. And I remember and I was like, okay. And I don't know, sometimes I watch them and every once in a while you'll get a band or an artist that you never heard of that you'll go, wow, I really liked what I heard. I need to look more into this artist or this band. And this was one of those moments where I was watching Ed Sheeran. Never heard of Ed Sheeran. Don't know anything about Ed Sheeran. And a song called A-Team I never heard of. And so they go to Ed Sheeran, and he's there with the acoustic guitar, and he's singing A-Team. And I remember watching it, just being blown away by the song and by Ed Sheeran's voice and being like, wow, this song's amazing. I immediately loved the song, on first listen. And sometimes you listen to a song and you're like, it's okay. And then later on you listen to it and you go, wow, this is really good. After a while, it just really kind of, stays in your head and kind of gets into you. And you're like, after a while, you're like, wow, this song is really, really good. Very few times I listen to a song for the first time and I go, wow, this is an amazing song. I need to hear more. And that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, who is this guy? This guy's amazing. Only heard one song from him and I'm already loving, of course, and I always love a good singer-songwriter playing the acoustic guitar. It's always been a favorite of mine. And so I just love the idea that there's this guy playing acoustic guitar and just wowing you with his vocals. And also you're listening to the lyrics, and the lyrics were sounding kind of cool as well. As I'm like, I don't know, I was just so, mesmerized by the song that I was like, I gotta look this guy up. And this is I didn't have Spotify. I don't know if Spotify probably wasn't around at this time, but he had iTunes. And so I remember I went on the computer on iTunes and he didn't have an album out, which I was like, wow, I was looking for maybe he has an album that I can, listen to some snippets of the songs and maybe buy some of those songs, and put it on my iPod or whatever. And, I want to know more. And so I remember looking up in iTunes, and he had what they call an EP, I guess, which was like an album, but it was only like 5 or 6 songs on the album. It wasn't a full album, which is usually 12 songs or something. So yeah, so he had like an album thing, EP with 5 or 6 songs on there. And I guess when I'm doing research, yeah, he put out 5 EPs independently, so he didn't have a big record contract, I guess, at the time. I don't know. I haven't researched him yet to know exactly how he got up, where he came from, and how he got to this point. But evidently, he was, very. And from what I researched at the time, I remember he was well known, and he was from England. He's well known in the circles in England, and kind of more locally known. It almost seems like, but wasn't globally known at the moment, or wasn't globally famous at the moment. And so I remember looking him up and was like, huh, this guy, like, he's so good. And I remember I bought all 5, 6 songs on iTunes and just listened the heck out of them. I was like, man, I love this guy's style. And like, why isn't this guy not a big thing? I remember at the time thinking like this guy should be like, really big and should have like a hit album, should be winning Grammys, should, be talked about more. And I remember at the time just telling people like, have you heard this Ed Sheeran? And no one's heard of him. And I was like, he only has like 5 or 6 songs out on iTunes, but they're really great. He has this really great song, A-Team, which is like one of the best songs I've ever heard. And yeah, it was just funny how like he was at the time, like nobody really knew him. And I felt like I was like one of the few people that like knew this guy named Ed Sheeran. And I was like, want to tell people like, man, you got to check this guy out, Ed Sheeran. I don't know if he's going anywhere, but I wish he would. I hope someone picks him up and he makes like a big record or something, a big album, and gets more known, So it's one of those things where I didn't know if he was going to be famous or not. But I was pulling for him. I felt like I was part of this small group, and maybe I'm totally off on this. Maybe he already had a big following, but as far as I knew, he didn't have a big following yet. So I felt like I was almost one of the few that was like really onto this guy. Anyways, and so then it come to 2011, he puts out the Plus album, and it skyrockets. It's huge. It's #1 UK, #5 in the US, so it does very well in both countries, especially UK, where he's from. From our research here, it's 9th best-selling UK album in the 2010s. So it sold really, really well. Did really well. I think it might have been nominated for like best album of the year, all this stuff. And it's just funny how I felt like overnight, all of a sudden Ed Sheeran was like this big thing, and everybody was talking about Ed Sheeran, and he was playing A-Team on stuff, and he was in interviews, and he's at the Grammys, I think, or he's doing, you see him everywhere, and he was big and he was famous all of a sudden. And then it just kind of grew from there with his next albums, Divide and Times. Like with each album, it just, and I was hearing his songs on the radio. Like I never heard A-Team on the radio, and all of a sudden all of his songs were hitting on the radio. And he was doing these big concerts, selling out and I remember being like, wow, like he made it. Like I was so happy. Like I felt like I was like this guy that really was cheering him on. And I was like so excited to see him, be as famous as I thought he should have been and reach the levels I thought he was capable. I thought he's so talented as a songwriter. I love his voice, great vocals, and I love his guitar playing, especially acoustic guitar playing. I will say my criticism of Ed Sheeran is I hate when he does the rapping. He does like the little fast like rapping kind of thing, and I'm not a rap fan, and it's just, I don't know. I don't enjoy that kind of music. So I'm like, man, do more of the folk music kind of thing, pop, folk, whatever music, folk rock kind of stuff. And I'm totally in. He's just amazing, I think, in my opinion. Anyway, so yeah, so this album Plus, very big, really made him, like I said, one of the biggest artists of the last decade, thanks to putting out this album. It had the hit single A-Team, one of my favorite songs of all time. Went #3 in the UK. He had like 5 or 6 singles coming off this album. A-Team, You Need Me, I Don't Need You, went #4 in the UK. Lego House went #5. Drunk went #9 in the UK. Small Bump went #25. And Give Me Love #18. So, you say all top 25 singles, and like 4 of them are top 10. So, really, really successful. These singles and the album itself did amazing. Like I said, I bought the 5 or 6 songs that he had at the time, and I remember one of them, of course, A-Team was on there. Lego House was on there, I believe, and Give Me Love. So those are 3 songs that I really liked off of that EP. So he took those songs and put them on the LP or the album. Anyway, so he took some of the songs that he already had brewing, basically, and made this album. So yeah. Anyway, so Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Ed Sheeran. It's funny, lately I mentioned Ed Sheeran and people are like, "Oh, Ed Sheeran is terrible," and he's like granny music or something, and only like moms and grandmas like him. And I was like so devastated when I heard people like say that. 'Cause I'm like, "What are you talking about? The guy's amazing. Like, I love his style." And like I said, and he's a great singer, great songwriter. His albums are great. Like, I don't get the hate that people have. I always feel like when someone's not very famous, people are willing to be like, "Oh yeah, this guy's great." And then once they get big, I don't know why people just love to hate people when they become famous, and they're like, "Oh, this." I think because Ed Sheeran went from nobody to like oversaturated, like he's everywhere. And I think maybe that puts some people off. It doesn't put me off, but I know some people are like, "Oh, the songs are overdone on the radio or something like that," and he's overdone and he's talked about too much. And so I think that's why people start hating him, and that's why I hear so much hatred towards Ed Sheeran, which is sad to me because I'm like, this guy's, I think, great. I don't think there's any shame in liking Ed Sheeran. I have no shame in liking him. So I don't know. I don't get it, but I don't know. People just love to hate, I guess. And it's one of those things. So, but yeah, I still think he's a great artist, and I'm excited what more he's going to come out with. And this is definitely a great debut album. My highest album for Ed Sheeran at the moment. And it's number 28, so it's pretty high on my list. Anyway, so let's get to my top 3 favorite songs on here. Number 3 is "Give Me Love," one of the singles coming off here. One of the early ones I heard, like I said. Love towards the end, he repeats that, "Give me love, give me love, give me love." He repeats that like a lot before he goes back into the chorus, and I just loved how he did that whole arrangement, and musically really good, the bass and the guitar and everything. And yeah, definitely one of his highlights early on. Number 2, I have "Lego House," another song that was, I think, came a hit on the radio. Definitely really catchy song. Don't exactly know what it means, but I like, he kind of paints this picture of, loving somebody and like wanting to, maybe settle down in a house. And yet he calls it Lego House, I guess maybe because it's fragile or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's some deeper meaning to it. I haven't looked up, but still, just, yeah, really great. Another great acoustic guitar song, great lyrics and great vocals by Ed Sheeran. And number 1, of course, like I've been mentioning the whole album, my favorite Ed Sheeran song still for this time of all time is "A-Team." Like I said, when I first heard it, it was just amazing. I love the acoustic guitar playing with his vocals. He had some really cool high notes in there. And it just seems like it's telling the story of this person. It reminds me of like a Rolling Stone from Bob Dylan. It was like on that level to me with this girl. She had everything. She was on the A-team. He says, I guess that's to say she was like popular. I think this girl that he's describing in the song, and now she's not popular and she's having trouble and stuff like that. So she goes from high to low, just like in like a Rolling Stone, kind of has that same vibe to it. So I don't know. I love it. Tells this kind of story of this girl and all her problems. And she used to be on the A-team. But yeah, and the chorus is so great. It's really catchy. Love his rhyming schemes in there. And yeah, just an absolutely amazing song. One of the best written songs, I think, of all time. I put him up there as one of the great singer-songwriters of all time, in my opinion. So yeah, so like A-Team, number 1. Anyway, so that's my top 3. And that's my review for this album, Plus by Ed Sheeran, 2011. Number 28 on my top 100 favorite albums. So please tell me what you think. Do you hate Ed Sheeran? Do you like him? What do you think? Have you heard this album? What do you think about this album? Where is it on your list of favorite albums? Or where is it amongst your favorite Ed Sheeran albums, if so? And what's your favorite songs? Love to read all that. If you would like to put in the comments, I would appreciate that. And just want to thank everybody for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. And just thank you to all of my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a good day.